Take 5, where this is being posted on Thursday, and tomorrow is Good Friday, and then Sunday, of course, is Resurrection, Easter Sunday. Even as a little boy, Good Friday always had a lot of impact on me. I grew up not a very religious kid. I did go to Roman Catholic school, and all during Lent, the school would go into the chapel, and we would go experience the Stations of the Cross, which if you've never experienced them, if you're not of that tradition, you might not know them. But there are, I should know many, there are 14 stations. I could be wrong. There are Stations of the Cross that basically walk the congregation through the road of Golgotha, the way of sorrows that the Lord went. And so every step of the way, the man or the priest that would be leading the service would take you to the next step. And Jesus fell a second time. And Simon Cyrene picked up Jesus' cross. And Jesus was flogged. And then Jesus was nailed. And it was really quite a memorable depiction of the excruciating, and that's where we get our word cross, by the way. It comes from the word cross, excruciating, the excruciating pain that Jesus went through on the road of Golgotha. That's what the Stations of the Cross were. And they made a huge impact. So even though my life, I've led evangelical churches my whole life, I've always tried to make sure that at least on Good Friday, we did something similar, at least in pathos. We did something similar with the same sort of sense of emotion and sense of darkness that Good Friday is. Always with the light at the end, of course, of Resurrection Sunday. But to sit in the pain of Good Friday is really important. I don't know if you're going to a service anywhere tomorrow. I'm at Trinity Church in Mentor. We have services at 7. I invite you to come if you like. So I just want, since Friday is Good Friday, I want us to sit in a couple of verses of Scripture from Romans chapter 5 that just remind us of the extreme gift that Christ did for us on Good Friday. So let me just read and make a few comments, and maybe this can be used for your preparation for Friday. Paul writes in Romans 5 and verse 6, while we were still helpless, he begins, at the right time Christ died for the ungodly. While we were still helpless, he's speaking of our moral helplessness. There's nothing we could do to raise ourselves up morally, to invigorate our lives spiritually. We are dead in our trespasses and sins. We are utterly helpless. We are drowning in the sea of our own humanity and our own sin. While we were still helpless, at just the right time. That's a theme throughout the Scripture, that Christ came just at the right time. At just the right time, when we were ready to go under, to use the sea analogy, at just the right time, Christ died for the ungodly. That's not just the ungodly, the wicked creeps. It's me and you. Christ died for the ungodly. He was my substitute. He died for me on my behalf. He died for my benefit as well, for that my sins could be forgiven. Christ died for the ungodly at just the right time. While I was helpless, I couldn't do anything to earn it. I was helpless, but Christ did it for me. That's grace. That's love. Verse 7 says, for rarely will someone die for a just person, though for a good person perhaps someone might even dare to die. For a good person. Do you remember the movie Saving Private Ryan that was out a number of years ago? Tom Hanks was this captain. I forget his name. Captain Miller. he had a troop of people on D-Day that had to go and find this Ryan fellow whose brothers had already died in the war, and they had to go and save him because they didn't want his mother to experience the death of one more son. Go and save Private Ryan. And Private Ryan was a good guy, and a number of the people, including Tom Hanks, Captain Miller, die in going to get Private Ryan. So they did die for a good person. Christ died for the ungodly. Though for a good person, perhaps they might die. Christ didn't die for good people. He died for helpless, moral people like you and me. Verse 8. Think of this as you think of preparing for Good Friday. God proves his own love for us in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Christ died. That's Good Friday. This text, the death of Christ, is emphasized in the way it is written. Verse 6, Christ died. Verse 7, dare to die. Verse 8, Christ died for us. Good Friday is about the death of Christ, and Good Friday is about the life of us that we gain by Christ's death. It calls us to be grateful. It calls us to be faithful and to receive by faith the grace and love of God. Christ died for us at just the right time. Have a meaningful Good Friday. Have a celebratory Easter Sunday. And I'll see you next week. We'll pick up 5 on 10 again then. I'll see you.